Welcome back to Working with Latex Part 5 with me, Catasta Charisma, in which we shall be marking around our pattern templates onto rubber sheeting and cutting them out. In this first example for the shorter dress, I've sped the video up simply because the marking out on the sheeting is so faint. When we come to the longer dress it will be much more visible and I'll slow things down. Essentially though, one can see that the templates for the shorter dress were able to be laid down along the width of the roll of rubber sheeting. The sheeting is black in a 0.3mm gauge and comes from Supertex. Initially, I lay down my templates just to get an idea of how they will be situated on the sheeting to produce as little wastage in offcuts as possible. The templates are then weighted down while I mark around them. This prevents them from slipping out of place. The marking tool I am using is a clover marking implement. Basically, it is a piece of plastic that leaves a faint line upon the sheeting. Every so often, as I mark along an edge of a template, I stop or go back after completing the edge to place a little score mark. These score marks indicate to me where to mark the triangular balance markers after the template has been removed. When marking, use your free hand to keep the template paper flat and steady. While one can see that I am here marking out on the face side of the rubber, that is the smooth, shiny side, one could equally do all the marking out on the underside, the rougher and more matte side. At this stage I have not marked out any collar or capped shoulder sections. These I will come to later. With all the body sections now marked out, I can begin to cut them out into their individual sections. When cutting, don't start on the actual marked line, but bring the rotary cutter in from some distance away. Imagine this as the slip road into a motorway. For once on that road you ideally don't want to stop until leaving it at the end. Keep your eye on the road at all times and try as much as possible to stay on the inside of the line so you aren't adding any extra width to the garment section. Try to cut the longer edges in one smooth and continuous cut. If you do have to stop at any point, such as to move yourself forward, don't move the rubber or lift your cutter. Just pause while you shift position. With your free hand, use this to manipulate the sheeting, pulling the rubber away from you as you cut, so as to flatten any possible bow wave that might be forming in front of the cutting blade. If you have used a gel or pigment pen for your marking, make sure it has dried. Here I forgot about this, and when folding the rubber to one side while getting on with another job, the pigment transferred within one of my template areas. If this happens to you, simply clean it away with some thinners. After cutting out all your sections, lay them down before you. Make sure they are in the right order. Flip the sections over to reveal their underside and mark upon them what they are. I use abbreviations such as SFR for side front right, BL for back left, and so on. In this next example, I am marking out the longer dress templates on the white rubber. Again, it is 0.3mm gauge and comes from Supertex. The first template I am marking around is the centre front template. With this one we do not mark along the straight fold line, but rather place a couple of small marks at the corners where the hem and neckline meet the fold line. We use these markers to help us align the template when we flip it over to produce its mirror image, and so also produce the overall section. For the longer dress, I cannot place my templates down along the width of the roll of rubber, for the templates are too long, so I have no choice other than to place them along the rolled out length of the sheeting. In the end, I was able to mark around all the templates to produce all the sections required across the width of the roll, except for one, resulting in that last section doubling up the amount of rubber I needed for the garment. Hence why this can be a consideration in opting to make a shorter length dress. If we wished to still make a longer dress but waste less rubber, then we always have the option of cutting all our templates into smaller parts. Typically, a good place to do this can be across the waist, simply cutting across the paper between the waist balance markers with a straight line. One thing we have to keep in mind should we do this is that we would need to add a seam allowance to the bottom edges of the top sections and one to the top edges of the bottom sections. Basically, we just need to elevate these edges out by around 3 millimeters. The marking tool this time around is nothing fancy. It isn't a gel pen, it isn't a pigment pen. It's just a simple ink pen. When using a rotary cutter, don't grip the handle as if holding a club. Place your forefinger on the top grip of the rotary cutter with your thumb and fingers to the side. This keeps your hand in a forward pointing direction, whereas with a fully gripped handle, your wrist has to twist to one side. This makes controlling the cutter much more difficult. Cutting is as much about using all your body than just the hand, particularly so for long cuts in which the wrist remains pretty well locked in place while the elbow and shoulder do most of the forward pushing, followed afterwards by the back, hips, and the rest of the body. This is also why it is advantageous to stand when working on larger projects. When you come to create the slots for the zipper teeth on the centre back section, it is easier to first cut up the edge from the hemline to the zipper point. Remove the offcut so it isn't in your way. Now cut out the short step. To do this, rather than push forward with the blade of the cutter, simply lever the handle of the cutter upwards. This will roll the blade very slowly over the line needing to be cut. It allows you to cut in a slower and more controlled way. Next, fold over the bottom edge already cut so you can get into the corner of the step and proceed to cut upwards towards the neckline. Thank you for watching, and join me next time when I will be demonstrating various preparatory work, including the incorporation of zippers.